In today's episode of On the Sales Stage, we covered everything LinkedIn and social selling. We talked about profiles, personal brands, messaging, the common misconceptions of social selling, the difference between social selling and social marketing. We dug deep into the world of LinkedIn, and it was a fantastic chat. I even gave away what my all-time favorite Disney film was. This episode has everything, so I really hope you guys enjoy it.
Oh, we're selling all the products and we're telling prospects what we got, yeah, we're selling. The next phase, we'll use lots of buzzwords, it's the next big craze. Jimmy and Rava Show, welcome to the sales stage. Sales stage. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the sales stage. Quick recap of our episode last week. We talked about the importance, in the climate that we're in right now to kind of reinforce the team identity. We had a lot of viewers / listeners, / posts saying that, it was a great exercise. Some folks tried it. I think the main part of that really is building a cohesive team, in what we would deem as more of a digital first world right now. And it's always great to have that sense of team and feeling. But that was last week. That's in the past. We don't dwell on the past, right? I'm going to pass over to Rava because this week, this week is paramount for the show, right? So I'm going to pass over to Rava to walk us through who our guest is this week.
Okay, here we go. So this week we're talking about social selling and social media maybe. And we have a wonderful guest, Dan Disney, on with us. And we are just going to be chatting about what social selling is, how reps can get involved or make use of different platforms, common pitfalls you want to avoid, and some strategies to actually win or effectively incorporate social selling in your strategy. So really looking forward to chatting with Dan Disney, and he is going to give us an introduction of himself right now.
And I'm going to intro myself in the third person. So who is Dan Disney? Dan Disney is one of the world's leading social selling and LinkedIn experts. He is the author of the best-selling book, The £1 Million LinkedIn Message. He's the founder of LinkedIn's most popular page for salespeople, The Daily Sales, which has just over 630,000 followers and growing. His passion is helping salespeople and sales teams leverage LinkedIn, to its full potential as a sales tool for generating more leads and generating more sales. And he is very excited to be on this show today.
Amazing.
Oh, wow. What, I mean, is it just should he not be interviewing us? 650,000 followers? We've got pretty close to that, divide that by 100,000. But I mean, that's, quite the resume. So this is going to be a super exciting episode. And the thing I love about social selling is that, prior, I feel like it was more of a buzzword, but no one really knew what it was. Similar to ABM, right? And no one really knew what it was. And so this should help bring clarity, I think, to our viewership of the stage crashers, as they call themselves. Exactly what it is. And I think what we want to be able to cover off is obviously leverage Dan for his expertise in it. So I think I'm going to be putting on my learning cap today. Right. So I'm going to try and stay as quiet as possible, but this is pretty exciting.
Yeah. I don't Jimmy. I have some funny memories of Vidyard going through social selling training, and I'll leave it at that. But the only thing about not the only thing, something that I always think about when I think about social selling is Jill Rowley, who is one of our early investors. I remember being at Oracle, and there was this woman who came through the Eloqua acquisition that was just pounding the drum on social selling and being out there. And she made a big ordeal about it. And she was just awesome. But she just said, you know what, you guys got to get with the times. You're not this is what the new world is. And she's paved that way. And she's been sort of the queen of social selling from the beginning. So like, that's what I think about when I think of social selling. But Dan, maybe you want to can you tell us a bit about like how you got here? How did you get into this daily sales and what led you here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Jill Rowley is the godmother, the queen of social selling, and I've been following her for years, and she was instrumental in my sort of journey. So you're lucky to have her backing video, and I'm not surprised that she is. I mean, I've worked in sales all of my working life, so I cut my teeth knocking doors, making cold calls, all areas of traditional selling. And about 7-8 years ago, sort of got introduced to LinkedIn. It was actually a prospect of mine had sort of sent me a connection request. Now, I wasn't on LinkedIn back then. If you're not on LinkedIn, they send you an email anyway saying, you know, so-and-so wants to connect with you, set up your profile today. And sort of looked at it, started to see some of my customers on it, some of my prospects. And it was obviously the only professional social media network. And, you know, I've never been a big social media fan personally, but I've always been very driven in sales and in work. And suddenly there was this sort of mixture of both. It was a professional social network, and just started using it and sort of learning by trial and error, bit by bit, started to find all these different ways that I could, you know, generate new sales opportunities, connect with prospects that I otherwise couldn't get hold of because they weren't accepting my cold calls or replying to my emails. You know, it was generating me more pipeline. It was helping grow relationships with prospects and customers. And I just kept using it. And over those years, just immersed myself in it as a platform and was able to generate a lot of results. And along that journey, started to create my own content. And in doing so, sort of started to build what became the Daily Sales, which was just a central place for me to put all of this content for salespeople, where, you know, all I wanted was somewhere that salespeople could go to every day. They just have to follow the page, and every day they're going to get funny content, motivating content, educational content, just an easy go-to place. And it just grew. And that's all I've been doing over the years, is using LinkedIn to try and help people. And in doing so, sort of stumbled upon being someone who can then help people use LinkedIn in their own roles.
That's super cool. It's like, it's very meta that you were like invited to LinkedIn, had no clue what it is. And now 8 years later, you are like, you have a book out and you're talking about how sales reps can use LinkedIn. That's pretty awesome. So if you were to define social selling, then what is social selling in your perspective?
So for me, the key word, well, I mean, obviously both words are key, but the key word is the selling bit. I think a lot of the misconceptions with social selling is the marketing aspect of it. And there are a lot of marketing based activities within social selling. If you put out content, you know, by definition, that's really a marketing activity, and done right, you will generate inbound leads, which again is a marketing goal. For me, the selling bit is where salespeople use it to go out and start conversations. So yes, generate lots of inbound leads. Who doesn't want inbound leads? But salespeople should be out there hunting and starting those conversations themselves. So it's about the direct messaging. It's about looking at the engagement you're getting on your content, the people viewing your profiles, and using that as an opportunity to then message them directly and create that conversation yourself. That's when the selling comes into it. And, you know, ultimately it's the culmination of all of those things, all these different areas that you can use LinkedIn, using it as a lead generation and sales generation tool. The selling bit becomes the key. That's what it is to me, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, I'm curious too, because, you know, with that, especially for someone as they're starting out, it can be a daunting task, right? And I think, like, as someone who's probably younger coming in, who spends a lot of time on social media promoting their personal brand, right? You know, it's a lot different of a mindset coming into to kind of bring to fruition your professional brand. And so when we talk about or look at, you know, a personal brand, you know, how important is that, especially in getting started in building that out, you know, to social selling?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting started, I mean, a personal brand is crucial, but I really love how you sort of presented that, because you're right. A lot of people use social media personally. We have our Facebook pages, our Instagram pages. We're connected with friends and family, and we say whatever we want. We share whatever we want. It doesn't matter. It's our own personal profiles. And a lot of salespeople, people sort of using LinkedIn for the first time, treat it the same way. So they'll share what they want, they'll say what they want. And you are right. I mean, we talk about personal brand in LinkedIn. But you're almost right. There is a personal brand that you'd have on your personal social media sites, and then it's making that slightly more professional when you use LinkedIn. And I think the key is finding that sweet balance where you're sharing your stories, your knowledge, your experience, and some of that will be personal, but you're also doing it in a professional way that presents you and your company in the best possible light. It's sort of finding that right balance. If you go too personal, then it's probably going to have a negative impact on you and the business. If you go too professional, you're not going to build anything that's going to be valuable to anyone. You'll struggle to build a big sort of brand in the space. So yeah, in terms of starting off, your personal brand is crucial. It takes time. You're not going to just start using LinkedIn and within a day have a big personal brand. It's climbing those steps up the mountain, but it's definitely something salespeople should start doing. And in my experience, it boils down to three things: growing your network, so adding people, growing your LinkedIn network every single day, engaging in your industry, so being present in your industry, commenting on industry posts on a regular basis, so your name is getting out there every single day, and then sharing your own content, sharing your stories, your insights, giving value on a consistent basis. Those three things done together on a regular, consistent basis, done the right way, you can start to build a personal brand within weeks. I've seen salespeople literally come out of nowhere just doing those things consistently, and before you know it, they're key people in their space.
Yeah, you're right. Like in terms of seeing sales reps just kind of come out of nowhere, there are some sales reps that I just love the content they put out. And one I'm thinking of is Tom Boston from Sales Loft.
Yes.
And he's just incredible. I don't know if you've seen him, Jimmy. Have you heard of Tom Boston?
I have not. No.
Okay, this guy, I'm gonna send you a link to like watch some of his videos after. But the reason I like him is I think what you were saying about hitting that professional and personal balance, because he does a really incredible job of, he puts a lot of time into it, I think, but like he makes these really fun videos, Jimmy, where it's fun. His personality's there. He's like an obvious, like natural comedian on camera. He, for instance, he did like a Zoom call where he plays all four different people. He plays the marketer, the sales rep, and like, he's just so hilarious. And but at the end, it all comes back to a Sales Loft value proposition. And I think that's so cool. Like and that's very marketing, but it's also, it's brand awareness for the sales rep. When a prospect interacts with him and actually speaks to him, if they follow him, has created such rapport and shown his personality in such a positive light that goes like miles for building relationships. Which
I think I've definitely got to check it out. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Oh yeah.
I think, the other thing that Dan, you mentioned that kind of sticks out is just like a consistent presence, right? Whether that is just, replying to a post and just keeping up that consistency. Because I think as, what we've seen the sales motion evolve to is really being an expert in your space, but understanding the ecosystem, especially in SaaS, the ecosystem that surrounds, your space. Right. And keeping up to date with that and understanding how different things work and how your value prop ties into, other things that your product ties into as well.
That's the key thing, Jimmy. It's about being immersed in your industry. And again, it's that balance. And it's not an easy balance, but a lot of salespeople do struggle with it, where they either go too personal. And I mean, in essence, it's no different to having a conversation with a prospect and, having great rapport, you're building a great relationship, but in the end, you get friend zoned because they don't trust you to buy from you. You've not done anything relevant to the product or the service. You've just had a lovely chat and that was fine. And a lot of salespeople do that. And again, the flip side is going too professional. And Riva, you're right. What Tom Boston does fantastically is he creates really hilarious content, but it's all relevant. It's all relevant to his target customers, to his target prospects. He's not selling Sales Loft. He's just creating content that's valuable. It's entertaining. And in doing so, he's growing his brand. He's building these relationships. And I guarantee a percentage of the conversations he has now with his prospects will start off with, "Oh, hey, Tom, loved that video you shared last week. That was hilarious. Really excited to talk to you today." How many salespeople can say that's how their conversations start with prospects? And all Tom's doing is, he's just creating content. This content doesn't take him a lot of time. I mean, Jimmy, you'll see this when you watch it. It's not sort of plush edited content. He's literally just recording it probably on his phone in his house, and it's just his unique content that's doing well.
For sure. And I think that brings me to a couple questions. One is like completely unrelated to what we're talking about, but it just popped in my head. But for reps, so not everyone is a Tom Boston who is funny and naturally can gravitate to something like that. What are your recommendations? Because what I often see that I hate is reps just pumping out whatever their marketing team sends them, not adding a spin on it. And they're just like, oh, I'm so passionate about selling X SaaS product. I'm just going to every day post about it. What's your recommendation for people that don't naturally like gravitate to like being center stage?
Yeah, I mean, content creation's not natural for a lot of salespeople, and it was the same for me. I have no background in marketing and content creation at all. I've learned through trial and error, just finding my voice on LinkedIn, and it took a while to do so. So I relate to a lot of salespeople that these ideas don't come to their head. It was the same to me when someone said share content. I have no idea what to write or what to post or what to create. You know, a lot of salespeople, it's not a natural thing. It's just about opening their eyes to kind of realize they're full of stories, they're full of examples. I mean, one of my other favorite sort of examples right now of, you know, sales reps building good personal brands is Sarah Brazier at Gong. She's done an amazing job, and she started sharing her journey as an SDR. Again, she wasn't an expert. She didn't have lots of knowledge. All she did was share her journey. She shared the things she was trying. She shared what was working, what wasn't working, but really raw, authentic posts. And again, there was nothing fancy about it. So I think the advice I try to give a lot of salespeople is just dig into your own stories. All you need to learn is how you present it, the right ways to write it and format it. That's kind of the easy stuff. But the hardest part is just tapping into, okay, what stories can I share? What's going on in my world that could be interesting, insightful, or valuable? Tom Boston's gone down the humor route. Sarah Brazier went down the following her journey route. It's finding what your personal brand's going to be. And the two ways you do that, one is to consume more content. So just start logging into LinkedIn once, twice a day and just reading, consuming, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, because that will start to inspire your own ideas. And then the other is to practice, to start doing it. Neither Tom nor Sarah did those viral bits of content straight away. It was a trial and error. They tried different things, and that's where they ended up. And then, you know, you go down the sort of smoother journey, but you have to start somewhere. I shared a video today talking about how you're not going to get lots of likes straight away. Tom didn't get tons of likes straight away, neither did Sarah. You have to keep going. And the more you practice, the more you find your voice, and it becomes easier.
I think that's important. The finding the voice piece really resonates with me. I think we're coming into an age right now where vulnerability and authenticity, but not like the buzzword authenticity, but like real, like connecting with yourself, finding out who you are as a person. Maybe that's not the professional side, but it comes through on the professional side where it will be very hard, I think, for a sales rep to keep up with building a brand if it doesn't resonate with them, if they're trying to be someone else. And so, yeah, I think that's really interesting. I love Sarah too. I love following her. And yeah, it's a good takeaway messaging that you need to like put some thought into what you're going to put out there. And then it's some time. You got to dedicate yourself to it.
And like I said, just find that sweet spot. You want to open up, and you know, people buy from people. So show them you, share your stories. Once or twice a year, I'll share a photo of me and my kids, and it might be us on holiday or us going on holiday or us doing something. You don't do it a lot of times, but it lets people get to see that you're more than just a salesperson. You're more than someone just trying to sell something, but you need to have that balance where you're creating content that is going to be valuable to your target prospects and customers, creating engaging, insightful, or entertaining content that's relevant to them, and keeping that balance of professional and personal. When you find that sweet spot, that's when you cracked it.
That's awesome. Jimmy, I'm sorry I'm hogging this, but I have my other.
Like I said, I have my learning cap on today, so I'm just soaking it all in like a sponge.
Okay, my other question is LinkedIn. It has been like the front and center, but we're seeing, it's not new, but like communities crop up that are off LinkedIn. like Sales Hacker or Rev Genius, for instance. What do you think about these communities, and is that part of social selling?
It's an interesting one. I mean, it depends who you're selling to. A lot of these communities tend to be sort of inner industry. So for salespeople, joining the Sales Hacker community, Rev Genius, whatever it may be, you're only going to network with your peers. You're probably not going to find customers in there unless you're a Tom Boston or a Sarah Brazier, to be fair, working for a company that sells to sales leaders. Then, of course, those sales communities will be beneficial. But for a lot of salespeople, they're selling into pharmaceuticals, into retail, whatever it may be. And you're probably not going to find your target prospects in those communities. So they are great for learning. They're great for networking. I mean, I look at this. When I started off in sales, there was no LinkedIn, there was none of these communities. So the only way I could learn how to sell was to read books and maybe listen to a CD. Even YouTube didn't really exist properly back then. Now, salespeople have obviously a lot more books. They have YouTube, they have podcasts, and they have these communities where they can learn. And I've learned so much, sort of over the years of using LinkedIn just by following all of the great authors, thought leaders, and experts out there. So for me, those communities represent the fantastic opportunity we have to be connected with all these salespeople and sales leaders around the world. You're not just limited to who's in your physical office. You can now listen to, learn from, and be inspired by the best literally everywhere. So I always recommend, and I'm the same, be present in these communities, learn, grow, and evolve. But I think where the question then sort of moves is into different social media sites. LinkedIn is the social selling place, especially in B2B, but you've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got Instagram, and even now TikTok. And, I've generated business on all of them bar TikTok. I haven't started practicing my TikTok dances yet, but on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, they've all generated me business, nothing to the scale of LinkedIn. But some of my prospects and customers prefer to use those social media sites. So for me, it's about understanding and leveraging them to the ratio of where the potential sits. So I'd say 90% of my business will come through LinkedIn. 5 to 10% max will come through those other sites, and I will allocate time accordingly. But it's important for sales teams to evaluate where their customers are. Do you have prospects and customers using those platforms and using them in a way that you could contact them professionally? Some people want Facebook or Instagram to be just personal. And I've spoken to a lot of decision makers who are annoyed at the amount of salespeople trying to connect with them on Facebook.
Oh.
You have to be very careful with those lines, but then some people do. I'm connected to some of my customers on Facebook and on other platforms. So it's looking at all of these different sort of ponds of opportunities and just treating each one individually in the way that they should be treated.
Yeah, I know. And Raven and I kind of talked about this back in one of our 6 segments that we had, and I think it was around like texting with prospects, and it's there's a big separation between personal space and professional space, and I feel like I'm still on the fence with Facebook, although I don't necessarily use it anymore, but I find that's a lot more personal focus. So it's like me posting pictures of our family going for walks or carving pumpkins or doing that type of stuff, and it's not necessarily business related. But I guess, from a personal brand perspective, it does have some pull.
I think what's nice, you can imagine connecting with a prospect or a customer on Facebook, and I use it the same. Facebook and Instagram for me tend to be 90% family stuff, but
yeah,
the same for my prospects and customers that I'm connected to on there. And what it allows us to do is take that relationship to a new level where it goes beyond just sales. And when you have your conversations, people will ask me, oh, how was that holiday? How was that trip? Oh, you got your pumpkins. How was the conversations go much deeper. Again, not everyone's happy with it, but some people are, and it's being open to that. Again, you can't force your salespeople to use their personal Facebook for business. It's a choice that we have to make. But for those that want to use it, the opportunity's definitely there.
Yeah, I think I just made a note, for the next deal war room, the first question I ask, instead of, are they connected to a partner? It's like, have you added them to Facebook yet? Have you done that? But I think it's weird because it's like, I always look at it like, prospects, probably not. Now, customers who maybe I've been on site with, I've met with several times, Yeah, yeah. Our relationship's kind of there. Like, are we Facebook friends yet? Yeah, we are. We are. Where it's like, if I don't know you, you're trying to add me. That's the, you're now coming into more of my personal space, and I would probably shelter from that. Um, and we've kind of touched on a few things. I'd be curious from your perspective, what are, when it comes to social selling as a whole, what are some of the misconceptions that people have?
The biggest one I think I touched on in the sort of introduction is that it's marketing. And there are a lot of people that put posts out on LinkedIn saying there's no such thing as social selling, it's just social marketing. And obviously, if you use it as a marketing tool, that is exactly what it is. If all you're doing is putting out content, sitting back and waiting for all those leads to come to you, then it is absolutely being used as a marketing tool. So for me, the first biggest misconception is that it is only for generating inbound. And a lot of salespeople, they're not checking their profile views. They're not looking at the likes they're getting or the comments, because within those are going to be prospects. And if you're not identifying that and then sending them proactive conversation starting messages, then yes, you're missing out the selling opportunity. And there's a lot of business that's missed by that. So number one, it is social selling when you use it to sell, when you use it to start conversations. The other sort of misconception is using it, and I guess we're going down this route, to sell in the negative way that we often associate with selling. So that is the spamming, pitching, jumping straight in with a message after you've connected. Here's our product. Do you want to buy it? Here's a link to my calendar so you can book a meeting with me so I can, sell you my product. The sort of negative conception of selling, which isn't exclusive to LinkedIn. People are doing it on the phone, through email, and any other means that they can. For me, again, it's that authentic professional selling. So it's using it to start real conversations, to give real value. And again, not to sell your product, but to solve a problem. So when you are using messaging, whether it's video, text, audio, when you're sharing content, it's all about giving value to your prospect. You're not just trying to sell to anyone and everyone. You are trying to find the right people, your ideal customer profiles, and you're trying to create relationships, open conversations that, if qualified and if it's right for them, you're able to then progress into sales opportunities. None of this, I mean, my inbox is filled regularly with terrible copied and pasted sales pitch messages, automated replies as soon as I accept a connection request that pings across, that literally copies my job title from my profile, all of that non-authentic type of selling. Again, that's not what social selling is. Same as it's not what sales is. I think those are the two biggest ones for me.
That's a really good one, because even with video, when we talk to people about selling with video, oftentimes the first thing you have to kind of demystify is it's not as out there as you think it is. The same rules apply, and it's lead with value. Don't jump to a pitch right away. Those types of things where you're saying the same thing about social selling. That would apply to someone making a cold call. That would apply to someone writing a nice email. And so looking at social selling as just another tool to add, or another channel to add to your sales strategy, is a really good way for me mentally to think about social selling.
Yeah, you're right about the video bit as well. I mean, video is one of the next kind of big waves in sales, and video messaging is that. And just one of the misconceptions you get with video messaging, again, same as any other means of communication, is this, okay, I'm going to record one video message. I'm not going to use a name so I can spam it out to tons of people every day. And it doesn't work. That's not effective selling. You're going to dramatically increase your reply rates and conversion rates if you hyper personalize it. So, go beyond having a whiteboard with their name on it and using, I've been using video for nearly 3 years now, where you can have your video on their LinkedIn profile. You can have your video on their website or on a key bit of content. It takes it to that next level. If you're able to make it as much about them as possible, you are going to see far, far, far better reply rates and conversion rates than that sort of spray and pray. Right, I'm going to record one video, I'm going to create one message template, and I'm just going to do copy, paste, send over and over and over. Go to my manager at the end of the day. Oh, I sent 100 messages, 150 messages, 250 messages, get my pat on the back, and then be sad the next day when none of them come back.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of busy work that could be had in sales that makes you feel like you're doing a great job, but you're not really. Well,
I think
are we
oh,
getting
sorry.
are we getting into machine gun questions, Jimmy?
I did. I wanted to before we get into the machine gun. Speaking of spray and pray, right? The old machine gun questions. I'd be curious. So, what's the best advice you can give anyone who's starting out? What is, where should they start? What is, if they can take away one thing from today, two things, three things from today, what should someone do to start when it comes to social selling?
I'll give you three of my top tips for anyone who wants to start using LinkedIn and social selling. Number one is update your profile and make it customer focused. So really look at your photo, your background banner image, and your summary, and just make sure they are as professional and customer focused as possible. It's not about you. It's not about how great you are at selling or how great your product is. It's what it can do for them. What can you do for them? What can you help them achieve? Create a customer focused profile has to be number one, because you could create a viral post like Tom Boston or Sarah Brazier, and you're going to get a ton of traffic on your profile. And if your profile isn't customer focused and fully optimized, like a bucket full of holes, all those people are going to wash away. So number one, update your profile. Number two, grow your network. Start growing it every single day. You've got a 30,000 connection limit. Use it. Facebook gives you 5,000. LinkedIn gives you 30,000. Use it. Grow it every single day. And the number three is just start posting content. Start building your brand by sharing your stories and growing your brand in the industry. As we said, Tom, Sarah, their conversations with prospects will be very different to other people in their teams, because their prospects and customers are going to be aware of them. They're going to know them. They would have got value from them. There was already this sort of foundations of a relationship there. So those three things: profile, network, content.
Amazing.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Perfect.
Jimmy's going to be the next Dan Disney after this.
I'm just going to be riding your coattails after this. You just wait. Well, let's get into another segment that we have, which is machine gun questions, which is again a common pitfall when it comes to sales reps. We ask a lot of loaded questions that have 6 or 7 different questions all baked into one beautiful run-on sentence, and this segment's going to be no different, slightly different. Just let me know when you're ready, because we're gonna get going.
I'm ready.
Perfect. So, what's your favorite Disney movie?
Pinocchio was one of the first ones I watched as a kid, and I've loved it throughout. It's an old one, but it's a good one.
It is a great one. What's the most underrated thing about London? So you live in London, England. What's the most underrated thing about London?
Most underrated thing are probably the places to eat. There are just so many great places to eat, and a lot of people are drawn to the bigger names, the Nando's, the McDonald's, the Pizza Expresses, but actually it's a lot of the independent restaurants and cafes where the best food exists.
Perfect. And the other question I have, like when you have a pint at a local pub, is it room temperature?
Ale tends to be room temperature, but a good pint should be cold. In my opinion, everyone has different preferences, but if you're going for beer or lager, yeah, cold is better.
Beautiful. What's the best place to visit?
Best place to visit. You know what? There are so many. For me personally, I quite like the big shops, the Harrods, the Hamleys. I have kids, and for me that is just an experience in itself. There is just so much going on there, so for me personally that would be my recommendation. Look for the real big historic kind of shops there. Perfect.
Unique one here, and I mean it sounds like you've got kids as well, so what was the last picture that you drew?
Oh, the last picture that I drew, God, a skull. Just as scary as it sounds. Yeah, I kind of have a thing for skulls personally, and just trying a few different doodles. Not in an evil way, in a cool way.
Cool.
Cool hip way, like maybe like a lightning bolt near it. Like it's gonna be. I see it. Short shorts or socks with sandals?
I'm gonna go with socks with sandals. I don't like either of them, but if I'm gonna do one of them, socks with sandals. Sorry.
Yeah. Hashtag dad look. I love it too.
Hashtag dad look. Yeah.
Yeah. Coffee or tea?
Both, but I'll go with coffee. I literally drink both in equal measure a lot.
This next one is obviously super close to Rave's heart. Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat an animal cracker?
I'm gonna say no. I'm not a vegetarian. I do love animal crackers, and from what I understand, there's no animal in them. So you're good.
Yeah. You are good to go. And I mean, for us with kids, animal crackers, speaking of underrated, they are underrated. You have like one of them, you're like, oh, that's pretty good.
So many times we buy animal crackers and we eat like the whole box before Vale even gets one.
Oh yeah, and I think now there's like different flavors of animal crackers too. So
chocolate and bran.
Oh yeah. Would you rather have a two-seater bicycle or ride a unicycle?
Two-seater bicycle. I don't think I would have the right balance for a unicycle.
Unicycle and juggling. Got it. So the last question here, what's the best sales book that you've read that's not your own?
Well, I haven't read my own, luckily, although writing it, I guess. The best sales book is a book called The Extremely Successful Salesman's Club by an author called Chris Murray. It's my all-time favorite sales book. I've read a lot of sales books, and it is brilliant because not only does it tell you how to sell, but it's wrapped around an early Victorian story. It's just brilliantly written, brilliant to read, and full of amazing sales insights. So yeah, that's my all-time favorite.
Perfect. I've got that on the list because I had never heard of it. So
me neither.
And that's why we do the show, right? And that's why we do the show.
Recommendations. Yeah. The rest of this chat, forget it.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Dan. I think that for the most part, I mean, we've got the sun coming up in my office here, so I'm just gonna
do that.
Try and close this up to get a little bit better lighting. But I think that for the most part concludes, what we had in mind. Was there anything else that you want to discuss or you want to share? Or we?
No, I thought that was really good. I thought we covered some really good parts. I enjoyed it. Did you guys enjoy it?
I learned a lot. I feel like I got re-inspired to like get back in there.
I actually, and I'll echo that. I think like there's a few pieces in there that I took away today that were inspiring. I think it may be again the climate, but I think the thought leadership pieces. You don't necessarily have to be a thought leader. It's being authentic and having a presence, right? And I think like some reps have the fear of posting something that maybe isn't given to them by the company, with the fear of like, we've seen what happens if it's can come across as very opinionated, and then you've got by nature 50-50 split. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't going to like it. But I think for the most part is, use common sense and have a presence, and it's only going to help you.
Yeah, I think companies should be empowering their sales teams to go out and try, and they're going to make mistakes, but the beauty of it is, if you put something out that isn't good, you can just delete it. It's not like it's stuck out there and there's nothing you can do. What I suggest is, just like going bowling, set the boundaries, set them guidelines, and give them the right training so that when they do throw that ball down, there's less of a chance it's going to go in the gutter and they're actually going to knock some pins down. You just need to give them the right kind of guidance. You wouldn't hire a salesperson, give them a phone and some phone numbers and tell them to start calling. You would train them to do it. And it's the same with LinkedIn. Give them the right guidance and then let them go. And then you're going to have the next Toms and Sarahs out there.
Yeah. I love the analogy. I know for us, I think it was like two weeks ago, someone had posted a comment on LinkedIn that they had requested a trial or requested a sales call.
That was Richard Smith, I think it was, in the UK. And yeah, I saw that post. I know Richard, and I mean, Vidya's response was absolutely a star. That was brilliant. I enjoyed watching that process. You guys dealt with it really well.
Well, I think that the whole part to that is like it actually internally it identified a gap in our process that was missing, and then basically unlocked 300 additional leads, right? Yeah. Because the way it was set up internally, we were missing it, right? Wow. So it was flowing through to basically like a black hole and sitting there. So I mean, those are the things where that is awesome that happened, and we started to coin a phrase at Vidyard called giving kudos, which is like a kudos for failing, because we've obviously with a company who's growing quite rapidly, we've got to learn to fail and learn to fail quick so that we can figure out what what the next thing is or what the right thing is to do. So examples like that, although it could have been potentially bad publicity, I mean, we learned from it, and it actually was super beneficial for someone to be able to expose that, right? So that's a super interesting story from our side that worked out quite well. Well, Daniel, it was great meeting you, man. It was really nice, really informative. I really enjoyed today's chat. So thank you so much for joining.
No, I enjoyed it too. Thank you for inviting me, and let me know when this goes live. And if you guys need anything or have any questions, just reach out. I don't know if we are connected on LinkedIn yet, but let's make sure that we are.
We are. I am. Jimmy, probably not.
Talking about, I think I sent one yesterday. It's probably pending. You know,
Oh, okay, yeah.
He gets a lot of asks. He's only got 30,000 that he's willing to say okay to. So how am I supposed to know if I'm one of those 30,000? I don't know.
We'll make
I'm
sure.
joking, Jimmy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. So great. And I hope you have a great evening, afternoon. And we'll talk soon.
Cool. Speak to you
Okay.
guys later.